Recording. Okay. Hi, everyone. This is my name is Marjorie McPike. I am the host of the CPA Lady podcast. I am a CPA in Southern California. I have been practicing public accounting since 2007, so about 13, 14 years, working primarily in small to mid-sized CPA firms, regional firms. Recently decided to take a step away from public accounting in the normal sense and do something on a different scale. So I'm now a sole proprietor, working to just educate people on taxes and accounting and help small businesses to be successful. I have with me today Cherie Williams, who is a CPA and known as the Little CPA, which I love. So Cherie, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself, please?
Sure. My name's Cherie. Like Marjorie said, I'm 5'1", hence that's why I'm the Little CPA. I've been practicing in public accounting for about 10 years now, and I work at a regional firm here in Southern California. I'm a tax manager there. I have had experience in general tax, so preparing individual small business returns, but my primary focus is nonprofit, estate and trust tax returns, and advisory services for those types of entities. And so, yes, I'm here in Southern California with Marjorie, even though we haven't met in person yet, but I look forward to maybe having lunch with you one day. Yeah, so that's the small picture of what I do and where I am.
Awesome. So tell me, you say you work at the regional firm the small regional firm. Have you always been there since you started your public accounting career, or did you go to there from a different firm?
Yeah, so I actually never planned to be a CPA. My goal was to be a CFO in a nonprofit. So I went to grad school to get my master's in public administration, because that's like the MBA for people who want to work in government or nonprofit. And in my nonprofit accounting class, this CPA firm came in and told us what they did for nonprofits. And I said, boom, that's what I want to do. They were hiring, got hired. And ever since then, I've worked for the same firm. And I've always been in the nonprofit estates and trusts area.
Awesome. So being in nonprofits, there's a lady that she's a good friend of mine. She recently passed away, Rosemary Brown. Did you know her?
I did not.
Okay. She worked in nonprofits a lot. She was with Grant Thornton and she was with McGladrey for a long time, but she specialized in nonprofits and in the LA area. So I'm surprised that your paths never crossed. So
yeah, maybe I've been in a learning environment with her before and the name just doesn't ring a bell. I'm sure if I saw her, maybe.
Okay, awesome. So you say you do nonprofits. So how do you find nonprofits? Do you find those to be just larger nonprofits, or do you ever see those where it's a smaller individual, like on a smaller scale?
Yes. So we normally work with mid-sized to mega-sized nonprofits. Usually our nonprofits have at least six figures, and most of them have 7 or 8 figures. But we do have some startup nonprofits. Normally those are business owners who have successful businesses who decide they want to start a tax-exempt organization. And so we definitely have some smaller ones, and they definitely have their whole own type of issues and areas where we need to pay attention to and compared to the larger ones. Like if you focus on small nonprofits, it's just like focusing on small businesses. It's a totally different world as compared to the larger nonprofits who have to deal with, enterprise level tax issues.
Mm-hmm. Okay, because I know I heard a lot of people that were looking for ways in order to reduce some of their taxable income. So looking to, like, say, start a nonprofit organization and donate to it, like in 2020, in order to help to defer some of their tax liability. So that's good to know.
We see that a lot. We see small business owners will do that. They'll start a nonprofit, maybe a foundation related to what they do or something they're passionate about. Mm-hmm. But what I see with wealthy entrepreneurs, like ones who, balling out here, they'll usually start a private foundation, and they do that with the goal of creating a philanthropic legacy. Mm-hmm. You can do that with a public charity, right? But with a private foundation, you can you don't have to get all of your income from the public. With a private foundation, you can support that yourself or with your business for years and years and years, and not have to meet certain requirements of a public charity. There's different tax issues around private foundations, and sometimes there's other limitations. But when it comes to leaving a philanthropic legacy for your family, for your kids, things like that, a private foundation can have more benefits when compared to a public charity. It really depends. Of course, it's always case by case, and you have to look at all of your goals and everything involved with the different entities. But yeah, I do see a lot of wealthy individuals choosing to make private foundations over public charities.
But with the private foundation, can you still accept donations from the public? Or is it?
You can accept, yeah, you can accept donations from the public. Donations to a private foundation normally are not deductible at the same rates as those to public charities. So right now, you donate to a public charity like Boys and Girls Club, your donation is 100% deductible. That's exclusive to everything going on with the pandemic. But donations to private foundations aren't 100% deductible. I think they're 60%. I should know this. It's either 60% or 30%, depending on what you donate. You know, if you donate stock, it's different than if you donate cash.
This is true. Yes. That's a good point, though. I like the private foundation because I know someone that was recently setting up a nonprofit, and we were doing it not so much for the tax benefit, but because there was a tax benefit, but they were also looking at it as, you know, leaving a legacy for their family. So I like the private foundation more.
Right,
so,
right.
I think we're going to go that route. Yeah.
Yeah. So we can talk offline, but another option to the alternative to the private foundation is a donor advised fund. Are you familiar with those?
A little bit, yes.
Okay. There's less rules around the donor advised fund when it comes to the donor. But there are a lot of rules and regulations with donor advised funds, but when it comes to the donor, sometimes it's easier for them to create the fund as opposed to a full-on private foundation. But that's a whole nother area.
Okay. But that's good because, like I said, so many people were earning money in 2020 and now it's rolling into 2021. And so we're hoping that earnings potential is still there and they still have that same drive. You know, it was all about, you know, leaving a legacy, you know, setting up generational wealth. So that's good to know that there are ways in order to do that. Awesome. Okay, so you also talk about estates and trusts. That's like my I've always been fascinated by estates and trusts. My first job in public accounting was working for a small CPA firm, and that was the focus. They were right next to an attorney's office in an area that was primarily senior citizens. And so that was their focus. It was, you know, estates and trusts. So what information can you share with someone that's looking to start a trust?
Right. So if you want to start a trust, go to an estate planning attorney first and foremost. Do not start with the CPA. Always start with the attorney, and then let the attorney guide you on where you need a CPA. There's a lot of legalities with trusts, and it's always best to have an attorney. You don't need a CPA for a trust until normally, you always have to use normally and depends, right? When you're a CPA, normally you need the CPA once the trust becomes revocable. So for example, a lot of people have living trusts, right? So for example, we have a family trust. It's a living trust because we're alive, thank God. And everything that is in the trust still technically belongs to us. Now, when my husband and I pass, our trust becomes revocable because we're no longer here and everything in the trust agreement is now final. So once we move on and the trust becomes revocable, if we have any assets in the trust that generate taxable income, guess what? The trust has to file a tax return.
Right.
That's when you need the CPA. Trusts have different rules than other entities when it comes to taxes. There's a whole different tax bracket. Not only that, trusts, they follow the IRS code, but they also follow something called the Uniform Income and Principal Act. I think I got those mixed up. Uniform Principal and Income Act. I think that's what it is. And there's a general one, but also each state has their own adaptation. Most states have their own adaptation. So that's why when you set up a trust, and if it starts to generate taxable income, once the trust becomes revocable, you're going to need a CPA that specializes in trust because of the special rules around all of that.
I like it. Okay, very good. So do you recommend that someone that's a small business owner, that they go and they start a trust, like you have a living trust? So do you feel as though there's a time when you should have a living trust compared to when it doesn't really make a difference?
I think everybody should have a living trust. Everyone, even if you are single, even if you are not yet a business owner, but small business owners should definitely have a living trust. And then they should talk with their estate planning attorney with what options are best for putting the trust in their business. The reason I say that, and sometimes the attorney will want to bring in the CPA, is because not all trusts can hold certain types of business stock. There's special trusts that can hold S corporation stock. Not all trusts can do that. If you have an S corporation and you want your trust to be the sole member, once you pass, that trust can only hold that S corporation stock for so long. Once that time period passes, you have to create a whole separate trust that's taxed differently than all other trusts. So you really have to go through the details with your attorney, and then bring in your CPA if needed to determine how you want to structure that. But you should always, either way, no matter how you do it, you really want to structure your business to have the trust as a member, or create for a trust to be created once you pass and own your entity. The reason is, and now I'm getting into, I don't want to get too much in the legal side of things, right? Because I want to stay in my lane as a CPA. But for example, in California, if you own assets that are greater, if the value of your assets is greater than 166,500, unless all of your assets are held in a trust, your assets are subject to probate. What is probate? That's, in short, it's the California courts decide where your assets go. Okay, if you have a will, often the courts will honor that will and direct assets according to the will, but that's not guaranteed. Not only that, there's probate fees. So if you have a will and no trust, you went through probate, some of your assets have to pay off those fees, and you lose some money passed on to the next generation. If you have everything you own in a trust, including an LLC or an S corp maybe, or however it works, then you bypass that probate process, and all of your assets pass on in the way that you designated, without having to pay any probate fees. Maybe there's some attorney fees in there, but at least it's not attorney fees and probate fees. So having everything you own in a trust is the most effective and efficient way to pass down generational wealth.
Right. Awesome. Right. And another thing about probates is that it's public record. So
that's why we know what Prince had. That's why, all the Aretha, well, I don't know if Aretha did, but I do remember reading about Prince. I know Aretha, they had trouble finding her will, but I don't remember hearing about what her assets were.
I know Prince, they did. Yeah. No, somebody else. Yeah. It's public record. So it's
crazy that at that level, people are not advising them to create these things, these entities.
I know.
I don't understand.
It makes you wonder. I don't know. Maybe it's they've been advised, but they don't want to.
Maybe. Maybe. You're right. You're right.
I like to think that.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to do what I want to do. So. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Awesome. So how did you, so what's your goal? I like that you're on Instagram and you're promoting and you put out some great content. I always love this thing, or looking at your posts. I love the fun ones too, because I can't do the fun ones, the dancing and the jumping. like, I'm gonna leave that to them. But I love it that you're always putting out good information. And I have to tell you that I belong to this organization. It's called the Alliance of Black Women Accountants. And we recently connected with the National Society of Black CPAs. Shannon Nash came and spoke at our group. And that whole connection came about because someone saw your blog and brought it to them. Yes.
That's incredible. And Shannon Nash played a role in why I'm a CPA today.
Really?
So I was actually interning at a nonprofit that she helped start because she's also an attorney. And I told them that I interviewed and got hired to work at a CPA firm, and I didn't know anything about a CPA firm. And they said, we'll let you talk to this lady. And it was Shannon Nash. And coming back 10 years later, I learned, I hadn't talked to Shannon since. I saw that they created the National Society of Black CPAs. The founder was Shannon Nash. And I was like, that sounds familiar. How do I know? And somehow I was like, that's who, and so I got to tell her that at a National Society of Black CPAs meeting, and it was just amazing. So a small world. That's awesome.
Yes. Yeah. I was like, that is so awesome. Yes. Yep. So it's very good. And I'm happy that you're putting that out there because that's a challenge that we face. And that's one of the reasons why we formed our organization, is because you don't find a lot of African-American women in public accounting and having the support. So our mission is to support or encourage and mentor women of color in the accounting profession, because we just wanted to be the support piece. Right. So we're there for that. Needed. It is very needed. So
yeah. That's much needed.
But it's awesome what they're doing. Go ahead.
With the Little CPA and the blog, the goal is to just educate my community on things I'm learning as a CPA, so that they can make better tax decisions and financial decisions as a whole. So I work for a great firm here. We work with high net worth individuals, like most CPAs do, but hardly any of our clients are clients of color. And I've only met one Black client, and we have thousands and thousands of clients. Not only that, I'm the only Black person at my firm in the tax department. And on the audit department, I think there's only one Black person. And so there's a disconnect. A lot of people in our community, they'll go to who they're comfortable with, right? The lady down the street who sells bundles and does taxes, but sometimes they're qualified because at a certain level, the tax code isn't that hard, right? You can deduct this on your taxes, you can deduct that on your taxes and things like that. But the wealthy people, they have different concerns. They don't need to know what's a hobby versus a business. Sometimes they need to know, what does it mean when I create a trust, and what are the tax implications, things like that. So I just try to share things that I've learned as a CPA with the clientele we work with my community. I mean, I share it with people that I know personally follow me, and then, social media community, I guess, so that just to inform them. I really try not to tell people, you should do this, you should be doing that, but just put it out there and then go do your research, and now what's maybe sometimes you don't know what you don't know. So I try to fill in that gap.
Right. Yeah. That's awesome, because it's very much needed. It is. So I'm happy to see that you're doing that. And I have a question, because I noticed that, like, on your page, you say that all your services go through your job, your firm. So did you not have the desire to go out on your own, or are you kind of like waiting, or?
Marjorie, I'm gonna have to talk to you. So I feel like I have a long answer to everything you asked me, but I actually went to college with a goal to be an entrepreneur. So at my school, you couldn't major in accounting. And I never wanted to. My first accounting class, I said, this is hard, I'm not doing this. And I was like, cool, my focus is entrepreneurship. So I actually took entrepreneurship classes. After college, I worked for an entrepreneur to learn what it was like. And I said, this is not for me. I was like, because it's easy to become an entrepreneur when you don't know everything that goes with it. Like, so I learned, from the business plan to, the accounting, to gotta make sure you have your own health insurance. You gotta somebody told me that when you start your own firm, it's not like having a kid at all, because with a kid, you can give them to your grandparents for 2 weeks and walk away.
Right.
In the beginning stages of your business, you can't walk away. And so you end up working more than any job. And I was like, oh my gosh, school is hard enough. So I just saw the negatives of entrepreneurship, right? And then even in my first years of working in public accounting, I was like, oh man, entrepreneurship, these people, you see net losses on the tax side. I'm like, oh gosh.
Right.
But now as I mature, I'm starting to learn all the benefits. Like, it's hard work in the beginning, but the rewards for some people are so much better than being an employee. So yeah, like I said, I work for a great firm. No firm is perfect. I'm gonna leave it at that.
Right.
Have I thought about entrepreneurship? Absolutely. And it's actually a little bit frustrating because I'm a tax manager at my firm. I'm not a partner yet. And so my firm, the leadership is not diverse at all when it comes to race. When men, women, yes, diverse. Race, not really. And so I get a lot of people wanting to work with me, but they want to work with a Black-owned business, or they want to work with me specifically. And I have to say, I'm honestly, people, it's right on my website, like you said, I'm straight up like, you're not working with me. So it's been a battle. I definitely feel like I still want to grow at my firm. There's, like I said, I receive a lot of good help at my firm, full service CPA firm. So if I have questions on international tax, I can ask this person. Payroll tax, ask this person. It's right there. So that there's lots of benefits, but the struggle is real. I'll just say, I'll say that. Yeah.
Well, I think it makes a difference when you have a good firm or you have the good support at your firm. It may not always be, it may not always be someone that looks like you, but if you have the support and if they see your value, it makes a difference. And
Absolutely.
So just from something that you posted, it's like, I can see that they value you. And if you're on a partner track, or if they want to put you in a particular direction, it's like, I think that that's worth pursuing, because it will speak volumes on your resume, and plus the additional experience that you will receive, so it just makes you more solid. So when you do venture out, it's easier. So
yeah, I'm receiving that, Marjorie. I take that. That's helpful to hear.
Yes. Yeah, like I said, I took the leap in December. And sometimes I sit here like today, I was like, oh, I don't have any health insurance. I really need to get that taken care of.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's okay. I'll be okay. I'm fine. I'm relaxed. I'm enjoying myself. Even though I'm busy, I'm still enjoying myself, and I feel good. So
yeah. And you have that experience in the background also. I think sometimes people jump into entrepreneurship too soon, and without I think experience is valuable, learning from other people. So for some people, they can just jump out.
And we were talking about, like, again, I always go back to 2020. Entrepreneurs got out there, they started making money, Instagram blew up, digital products, everything was happening. And then they had to shift. So meaning that they weren't aware of what the tax implications of all that money was going to be, and how do they handle it. So I've been speaking to people about being proactive. So we're in February, even going into January is the same thing. It's like, if you feel as though you're gonna need to form an entity, set up your accounting records, do everything proactively, and then you kind of shift at the end. If you need to, you can always give yourself a bonus, and you can always do something different, but at least have the entity set up. Do you find a lot of that, like, you probably don't experience that in your firm? Are your clients pretty clean, or do you still have to do a lot of training and guiding for your clients?
It really depends. I'm trying to think right now to give a general answer, and it depends. My friend, I just brought in a friend to our firm. He has a successful IT related firm. It's actually a really cool firm. Somehow he's combining IT with creating opportunities for BIPOC, Black, Indigenous people of color. So it's a really cool firm. And so I brought him in, but it's his first time going on his own. We had to file the selection for him. We had to help him determine a reasonable salary and all of those kinds of things. And that was this has been a hand-holding process.
Mm-hmm.
One of my rules normally is I don't work with friends and family.
Mm-hmm.
And so I broke it for him because I'm like, well, this is a really cool firm. I want him to I want to make sure he's being well taken care of. So yeah, we had to educate him. I have to educate him from A to Z. But what I'm learning is when you have to educate people, it helps me learn as well. I'm like, oh, this is a question I've never gotten at this level, at this basic level. Usually is that those kinds of things are already taken care of.
Right.
So with someone like him, yes, we have to educate him from A to Z. Other clients, a lot of our clients, for example, when it came to the PPP application process, they didn't even come to us. They figured it out on their own or talked to their banker or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So it really depends on what level they are in their business and who else they're working with. You know, there's a lot of different financial advisors out there, and we got the tax area, but sometimes somebody else is already taking care of their entity creation or something like that. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. So did you get involved a lot in the PPP loans?
Not at all. We actually have a separate group that handles that and follows all that, and they just send us updates on the new legislation and all of that. Okay. So no, I just focused on compliance, tax, advisory services, and other people took care of that.
Okay. So when you say advisory service, what does that involve?
So it's different for every area. For example, with the nonprofits, a lot of nonprofits at our level start investing in alternative funds. So they'll invest in, maybe this sounds illegal, but it's not. Offshore accounts, right? It's what businesses do. They'll invest in hedge funds and things like that, alternative funds, right? And so we have to advise them on the tax implications. Sometimes when you invest in alternative funds, you have to file international related returns, things like that. So they'll ask our opinion. Also on the nonprofit side, there's charity watchdogs. I don't know if you guys have heard of Charity Navigator and organizations like that that rate each charity based off of their how much they spend on their programs, how transparent they are, those kinds of things. So we'll do an analysis for them to tell them how they would rate if they, based off of what they do with their expenses, things like that that are outside of normal tax preparation services. On the business side, we also do business valuation, we do exit planning, things like that. So yeah, we try to offer things outside of tax preparation because, I'm glad, because look, I don't, preparing taxes one after the other sometimes can be, it's not the most fun, especially when businesses have their stuff together. It just feels like data entry, right? Because it's like, okay, you give me perfectly clean financial statements, which is great, but that just means I'm plugging it in. So I'm not complaining. Send your people a clean financial record. I'm just saying it's fun for us and it's more value to clients when we get to do things outside of that.
Right. So the tax planning and developing some tax strategies and kind of seeing what they are. Yeah. Exactly. I like that as well.
Yeah.
Sometimes, tax season is tax season, but it's the planning that I enjoy and working with people and kind of communicating and helping them. So yeah, exactly. Very cool. Okay. So is there anything that you would like to leave? I don't know if I've covered everything that I wanted to cover. So if I haven't, I'm going to have to call you back and we'll talk again. So
okay. I would love to come back. The only thing I'll say to end this is when you're looking for a CPA or tax professional, make sure that they have experience in your area. So if you're an e-commerce seller, ask your CPA if they have other e-commerce clients. Even if they just have one or two, that's fine. But there's different knowledge areas for every area of business. So if you are a small business, or Marjorie, I know you work with Todd, yeah.
Todd Capital.
So if you're in real estate, or if you are really making that money, you need to talk to Marjorie. I'm going to be sending people your way. But if you're a nonprofit, if you want to start a nonprofit, come to me, or
right.
So there's different people with different expertise in different industries, and make sure your CPA is knowledgeable in that area. It makes a difference.
It makes a difference.
Mhm.
Awesome, awesome. Well, thank you so much, Sheree, for joining me. Like I said, I know this won't be our last conversation. We will get together again and chat some more. And you can find Sheree on Instagram at the Little CPA. And that's probably the best place for people to contact you. And your blog, is it the Little CPA as well?
Yes, thelittlecpa.com. You can subscribe to that as well. I only send quarterly emails, so you won't get spam.
You won't get spammed, okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you again. And I will leave all the contact information in the description, and feel free to reach out if you have any questions, and you have a good day. All right.